Iannielli, and I am a male to female transgender woman. I am looking forward to later today. I'm going to Callan Ward. Um, Actually, I'm meeting with a psychiatrist to get an evaluation letter. I'm working with Dr. Marcy Bauer's office, hoping to eventually get gender reassignment surgery, and I need two letters. Uh, two mental health professional letters stating that I fulfill the requirements to be considered for gender reassignment surgery. It's been a long, tough road for me as a woman trapped in a man's body. I knew I was different from a very early age, and I started cross-dressing. My earliest recollections was as a 3-year-old when I stole one of my sister's dresses, which was a little too big for her, and it fit me. So that was my start to a lifelong journey of feeling different and trying to determine how best to deal with it. I'm also going to a new therapist tomorrow evening, hoping that she also will write me a letter, but obviously I will have to see her for a period of time so she can get to know me, and then hopefully will assist me by writing a letter. And I'm also going to Beth Israel Hospital for aftercare treatment. I go to a psychiatrist and a therapist, and I wish that they could write me the letters. The letter really, the two letters will be the final requirements I need for Dr. Marcy Bowers and my health insurance company. Once they're furnished, then they can go forward with my application form for gender reassignment surgery. It's already been in process, and the health insurance company is aware. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that everything will work out. My thoughts on what it's like to be transgender and struggle with gender dysphoria. Well, it's very hard to explain to many people what it's like to feel trapped and all alone and struggling with sad feelings and depression and questioning why you have these feelings that not many people do. Not many. I knew something wasn't right when I was a young kid because I always wanted to wear girls' clothes, and I always identified more as a female, and I knew that it wasn't natural to have these feelings, but for me it seemed like I wasn't crazy or anything. I was just feeling these I've just felt that it was natural for me to have these needs and desires. I tried to figure out what to do, how I would deal with my feelings, and I believe that many young children who struggle with transgender issues aren't really sure what to make of it. They probably struggle with it and don't feel comfortable, like when I was a kid. I couldn't really reach out to anyone, not even my parents. So I really carried this secret of mine for the majority of my life, and I never really talked about it. Never talked about it as a kid. I believe if I grew up in today's generation, that it would be much different, and that I would probably discuss it with my parents. But back when I was a kid, it was not what it's like today. And I seen some videos on YouTube where they portray the lives of young transgender children today, and how they are much more open about their feelings and their struggles. And for some of them, or for a good part of those who struggle with their gender, their parents seem to be okay with it, and they try to help them in their journey of self-exploration and discovery. And I think that's a good step forward. I think transgenderism, transsexualism is becoming more known, and hopefully people will come to understand that being transgender is really a medical issue. It has nothing to do with being crazy, or however people view it. I know most people don't view it in a positive way, and that's unfortunate. And it's sad when you think about it that most transgender people live in guilt and secrecy. And I believe that should not be true. I think you should really embrace who you are and not be ashamed. There isn't any real reason to hate yourself because of the feelings you have. Sadly, there are a lot of transgender people that feel guilty. They don't admit to it. They suppress their feelings. And some of them are really having a lot of difficulty in their day-to-day lives and in their relationships. And unfortunately, some do eventually take their own lives, and that's a very sad situation. And unfortunately, many transgender people go through those difficult emotional feelings. And for the transgender as a whole community, we probably have the highest rate for attempted suicide. And I think, if memory serves me correctly, it's as high as 40%. So it's really a very sad situation. And I wish people were more tolerant and accepting of people who struggle with their gender identity. I wish there were more people who were compassionate and understanding towards transgender individuals. And I wish parents would be more open-minded to their children's struggle with their gender identity. There's nothing wrong with having a transgender child. You should embrace them and love them for who they are, and allow them to express themselves. I do have a lot of things in my life that I'm grateful for. So I believe that in a way it's good that I didn't transition earlier in my life, because I wouldn't have experienced fatherhood and marriage and I'm very happy. I have a son who's my pride and joy. He's a great kid. He's 16 now. He has his own struggles too. He's autistic. Has Asperger's syndrome, and currently he goes to a residential school upstate. So I miss him. I try to call him almost every day, and we have a good relationship. And my son is pretty open-minded and very happy for me to realize who I am, and he has no ill feelings to the way I feel. He actually is very supportive, and he's very mature for his age. So I am very lucky in that regard, and we have a wonderful relationship. We like to do things together, go to movies, have pizza, buy DVDs and Blu-rays, go to all his favorite stores like Target and Walmart. So we have a nice relationship, and we have wonderful times together. I just can't get over how fast time flies, and I remember when my son was first born, and that was a time when I was very happy. I was a newlywed, and I thought finally I would put my transgender struggles to rest, and wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. So I thought, getting married and having a child would cure me of my gender struggles. And as my son was growing, and we realized that he was struggling with autism, and I was working crazy hours, I had a lot of stress. And when I dealt with stress and my gender struggles, I would cross-dress quite a bit. So that came back into my life, the cross-dressing. And every time I dressed, I just felt like this is me, this is who I am. I really felt like I was a female, but I couldn't give in to those feelings. So I just acquiesced and just thought maybe I should just think of myself as a cross-dresser and don't go deeper than that. Don't fall into that gender identity spectrum where I really consider myself on the transgender, transsexual side rather than the cross-dressing side. So I kind of lied to myself and just tried to go about my daily life, working, being married and raising a child, but the stress was there. And then over time I integrated the cross-dressing into my life. It was always in secrecy, and I lived in the closet. I was afraid to come out. I didn't want to tell my wife. I was afraid that it would not impact, it would not be a positive impact, obviously. And I was concerned for my son and how he would take it, and also my wife and how she would take it. And also I was working, had to make a living, so obviously if I were to transition, I would have had to inform my employer, and that scared me, because if, God forbid, I came out and they weren't accepting of it, I couldn't afford to lose my job. So I just had to kind of suck it up and make the best of my situation. And it was not easy, and I really struggled. I went for therapy for quite a period of time over the years, and actually that's how I met my wife, going to a therapist. Um, but I struggled quite a bit as a young kid growing up, and as a young adult. I was extremely shy. I wasn't really into dating and living a real male lifestyle. I didn't really identify, and I wasn't comfortable as a male. So it certainly made me feel uneasy around girls. And plus I was afraid if I tried to go out and date girls, I was afraid that they would pick up on my gender issues. And I never had any girl, or anyone for that matter, ask me if I wanted to live as a girl. But I was afraid that if I did develop friendships with girls, they would probably figure it out. So I kind of stayed clear of the girls and the guys, for that matter, because I did not want people to know how I truly felt inside. I didn't feel comfortable, and I didn't want to share my feelings with anyone. I couldn't even tell my parents, and I have two sisters, and I never told them either. But I sometimes wished that I was able to have talked about it. I feel very guilty that I never shared my true gender feelings with my mom and dad. They would have most likely accepted me, and in my heart I do believe that they must have known that I was struggling with my gender, but I will really never know for sure. Um, I was a good kid. I listened to my parents and did all the right things. I was good with school. I listened and obeyed. I was very well-mannered and well-behaved. I never really had any problems growing up. The only real problems I had was my own self-esteem and confidence. I was extremely shy. I didn't have many friends. And if it wasn't for sports and school, I don't know how I could survive. It was not easy for me, especially with my gender struggle. But luckily I was a good athlete, and I was good in school, and I was very disciplined, and always striving to do the best I could. So that really helped me in my teen years growing up. And then I was fortunate, my parents helped me with college, and I studied. I was very good in math and science, so I went to college for engineering, and then I also studied accounting, and started working, and I bounced around from job to job, and I was a little unsure whether I took the right career path, and also trying to meet people and have a life, and how to integrate my cross-dressing into my life. Certainly I didn't go out dressed. I always did cross-dressing in secret, quarters and at home, so I wasn't open about it. I had attempted on occasion in my young adult life to go out dressed, but it was nerve-wracking, and I was scared. And I remember one of my very first experiences where I was dressed in all female attire, that I was easily picked out. I don't remember what they clocked. I was clocked, and it's ironic, but the ones who knew that I was a guy wearing a dress at that time were teenage girls, and I remember walking around the mall and these teenage girls were staring at me, and I tried to look away, and when they saw me they were giggling and whispering among themselves, so I knew that they picked up on my cross-dressing, but I didn't do it that often, and that kind of set me back. I was very self-conscious and afraid to go out, and I was afraid that people may react in a violent way, so I was super careful in those times when I actually experimented and tried to go out as a female. And I didn't pass well. I think a lot of the in order to feel confident and feel like you can pass, I believe it's attributed to going to a therapist, talking out your feelings, and also taking female hormones and testosterone blocker like I do. Once I started on the estradiol and the spironolactone and started going to therapists, I developed more confidence in my appearance, and eventually over time I didn't feel as self-conscious as I once did, and I did notice over time the remarkable changes from just taking the hormone pills. My face became more feminine looking, and my skin became very soft, and a lot of it also had to do with me doing electrolysis to remove the facial hair. I'm still going for electrolysis treatments. It is expensive, but it is very effective. It's probably the best choice if you want to remove your facial hair. You know, there's two real popular choices. One is electrolysis, which I decided to do, and the other is laser hair removal, which many transgender girls have. But I was concerned about laser. I've heard some stories where you could have your skin burned, and I have very sensitive skin. Plus, I heard that it's not 100% effective like electrolysis is. So I went in the direction that I felt was going to be the best, and that was electrolysis. And I have a wonderful electrologist. I went actually to two. They're both great, but the one I'm seeing now I really like. She's like a good friend of mine too. And you know, she's also someone I can vent to and talk to. She's well aware that I'm transgender, and she's very accepting. And I think when you start to feel like people understand you and accept you for who you are, you know, it's a nice feeling. You know, I always felt insecure and shy, and I didn't know how to best communicate my feelings, and I was just afraid of rejection, and also I was scared that people may not react favorably to my gender identity, and you hear nightmare stories where trans women get beat up, and some even meet with violence, and tragically some even die. So, I really am fortunate that I live in my own little world, and I have never experienced anything uh, in a bad way. Uh, the only thing is that I struggle a lot with my self-esteem, and that was always the case, whether I live as a male or a female. But I notice when I'm living now, I live full-time as a trans woman now. As soon as I started on the hormones, I wanted to try to start living as a full-time transgender woman, and I was feeling that that was probably the best thing for me, and it wasn't an easy transition, and it's still not easy. I'm still only 2.5 years into my transition, but I am coming a long way from where I used to be. The only setbacks that I have are some financial problems, because my income these days is really just my social security disability and my long-term disability. I'm not working. I haven't been working for the past 2 years, and I've been in and out of hospitals. So I've been in the hospitals for depression, my gender dysphoria, and for suicide ideation. So certainly I struggle as a transgender woman, just like many do, and I'm fortunate. In many instances, I was brought to the hospital as a result of a third party concerned about my welfare reaching out to the police, and they came to pick me up and take me to the hospital, and that happened several times. And the police are very nice to me, the paramedics. They are very understanding and accepting of my situation. I even received a piece of birthday cake from one of the police officers who promised me that he would do that for me on my birthday. So I was quite surprised, and I felt very honored and very appreciative of his kind act. The police are wonderful, and I'm very fortunate. And even in the hospital, when I was in the hospital, I got my own room because of my transgender issues. I had privacy, and they were very respectful of that. So I've had many positive experiences, and all the doctors I go to and therapists, they treat me very nice. So I'm very lucky, because I've heard stories where there are a lot of trans